All right, let's dive deep into persuasion today.
Sounds good.
Specifically, we're going to be talking about this idea of permission granting and how it kind of sneaks into how we make decisions.
Absolutely.
The audiobook we're looking at basically lays out all sorts of persuasion techniques.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe how these simple little things can actually tap into these deep psychological patterns that we all have.
It is fascinating, isn't it, how often we just kind of give permission without realizing it.
Right.
It goes way beyond just saying yes to something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like these patterns that we've had ingrained in us, often going all the way back to when we were kids.
Interesting.
You know, and how we interact with authority figures.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like the audiobook uses this example of needing permission to go to the bathroom in school.
Oh, of course. I mean, could you imagine just
Right.
getting up and leaving whenever you wanted?
No way.
You would never do that.
It's so ingrained. Right?
Yeah, you need that nod from the teacher. And it's funny how that carries over into adulthood.
Totally.
Right.
And it makes me think about all these guarantees and trial periods that companies offer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're kind of giving us permission to buy something
It is, yeah.
in a way, right? Like it makes us feel less risky
I think so.
because we know we can always return it or get our money back.
Totally. It takes away that fear of loss.
Right.
And it plays into that aversion that we have, you know? Like, we don't want to lose out.
No.
So it makes us more comfortable to give it a shot.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And, taking that a step further,
Yeah.
the source material connects this to, believe it or not, cult dynamics.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That is.
It's this idea that
Yeah.
cults often use this whole permission granting thing to make people feel like they belong.
Oh, I see.
And they create this sense of dependence on the group.
Wow.
You know, it's like they position themselves as the ultimate authority.
Right.
And then it becomes really hard to even question anything they say.
That is pretty scary.
It is. And it reminds me, my mom actually got caught up in a kind of cult-like group when I was younger.
Oh, wow.
It was wild. I mean, it wasn't anything too crazy, but it was just so interesting
Yeah.
to see how quickly she was just drawn into it.
Oh, yeah.
And you realize it wasn't even about logic anymore. It was all about the feeling, the emotion.
Exactly. That sense of belonging.
Yeah,
It's
that's powerful
the stuff.
It is. And I think it highlights the fact that while you can use these techniques ethically to build genuine relationships and trust,
Right.
you can also use them to manipulate and control people.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
And I think ethical persuaders, they use these tools to empower people, not to exploit them.
Makes sense. Yeah. So it's not just about recognizing these tactics in other people, but also being aware of how we might be using them ourselves, even if we don't realize it.
Oh, absolutely.
And speaking of tactics, the audiobook also talks about this idea of acting as if. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, of course. Acting as if, yeah.
What is that exactly?
Well, it's basically mentally going through the motions of making a decision.
Oh, interesting.
You're already there, you've made the choice.
Right.
And you're visualizing a positive outcome.
I see.
So it's like a form of mental rehearsal, I guess you could say.
Gotcha.
And it really helps because it attaches emotions and logical justifications to whatever you're deciding.
Uh-huh.
So it makes you more likely to follow through because you've already kind of experienced it in your mind.
So could you give me an example of how this might work in real life?
Sure. Imagine you're trying to negotiate a raise at work.
Okay.
So you're sitting there and you picture yourself confidently asking for the amount you deserve.
Okay.
And then you see your boss saying yes, and you get that raise.
Wow.
You've basically acted as if it's already happened.
That's cool.
And that can actually boost your confidence in the real negotiations.
That's amazing. It really can, yeah.
Salespeople probably use this all the time.
Oh, all the time.
Right. When they get you to test drive a car,
Exactly.
they're getting you to imagine you already own it.
Yeah, you're behind the wheel.
Right.
You're feeling it.
You're experiencing it.
And then, boom, you're more likely to buy it.
Wow, that's really powerful.
It is.
Now, are there any other persuasion tactics, maybe some quicker ones, that the audiobook talks about?
Oh, there are tons.
Cool.
One that comes to mind is social matching. It plays on this human need to fit in.
Oh, so we want to be like other people.
Exactly.
We're more likely to buy something if we see someone we admire using it.
Yes. You think about early adopters
Oh, okay.
of new technology or something.
Yeah.
They want to be the first to have it, to be in the in crowd.
Makes sense.
It's like social proof.
What about shared opinions?
Right. Right. They call that concurrent.
Concurrence, yeah.
And it's basically the idea that you're more likely to be persuaded by someone you agree with.
Exactly. Agreement creates a bond.
Right.
You trust someone more if you see eye to eye.
Totally.
And that makes you more open to hearing their ideas, even if they're new.
And I guess that's where empathy comes in too, right?
Absolutely. Empathy is huge.
It's not just about feeling sorry for someone.
Oh, no.
It's about really trying to understand their perspective.
Exactly.
And when you feel understood, you're more likely to listen.
You're more open to their point of view.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I think all these tactics, like social matching, concurrence, acting as if, the key is using them ethically.
Right.
It's not about manipulation.
Yeah.
It's about genuinely connecting with people, building long-term relationships.
Yeah.
You know, manipulation might work in the short term,
Okay.
but ultimately it backfires.
I see.
The audiobook even talks about how, like, cult leaders,
Right.
they were masters of manipulation, but in the end, their lies were exposed and they faced consequences.
That's true.
So it's a reminder that genuine persuasion focuses on win-win situations.
Exactly. Not just taking advantage of people.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
It is. And, you know,
Yeah.
speaking of like a framework for persuasion,
Mm-hmm.
the audiobook talks about this thing called the persuasion equation.
Oh, okay. The persuasion equation.
Yeah. It's like a model for, you know, getting people to see your point of view.
Tell me more.
It's pretty simple, actually, but really effective.
Cool.
It breaks the process down into 3 main steps: positioning,
Right?
presentation, and influence.
All right. So positioning, presentation, and influence.
Yep. Each step has all these like little nuances and tactics that can really up your persuasion game.
Got it. So let's start with positioning.
Okay.
What does that involve?
So positioning is all about setting the stage, right?
Okay.
You have to understand your audience, their values, their motivations, what makes them tick.
Right.
And then you tailor your message to them.
Makes sense.
It's also about how you present yourself.
Yeah, like how you dress and stuff.
Exactly, like your clothes, your body language, even your tone of voice.
Interesting.
All of it contributes to your persona.
Oh, I see.
And that persona should project, you know,
Right.
trust and authority.
So it's not just about what you say, but how you say it.
Exactly. And don't forget the power of storytelling.
Right.
The audiobook makes a big deal about that.
It's all about crafting a compelling narrative.
Yes. And remember the primacy and recency effects.
Remind me what those are again.
Oh, it's basically that people remember the beginning and the end of things best.
Right.
So you want a story that grabs them right away and leaves them with a powerful takeaway.
That makes a lot of sense.
And using visuals, anecdotes, even humor.
Yeah.
It can make your presentation way more memorable.
Right, because logic is important, but emotion really drives action.
Oh, absolutely. We're emotional creatures.
So, okay, we've positioned ourselves. We got a great story. What's the final step in this persuasion equation?
Influence, that's where you put it all together.
Ah.
You bring in all those persuasion tactics we talked about, like
Okay.
social matching, concurrence,
Right.
acting as if you're
Mhm.
subtly guiding your audience toward the outcome you want.
But always ethically, of course.
Of course, always ethically. It's
Mhm.
about empowering and not manipulating.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
But before we move on to, like, specific applications of these techniques,
Yeah.
I think it's important to touch on ethical persuasion again.
Oh, absolutely. It's the foundation of everything.
Right, because manipulation might work for a little while, but in the long run, it always backfires.
Oh.
The audiobook gives that example of cult leaders, remember?
Right. They were all about manipulation, but in the end,
Yeah,
their house of cards collapsed.
and they face the consequences.
Exactly.
So it's a good reminder that true persuasion is about building genuine relationships
Absolutely.
and creating win-win situations.
Yeah. Yes. Where everyone benefits.
And not exploiting people's vulnerabilities for your own gain.
Exactly. It's about building trust,
Right.
not breaking it.
So what are your main takeaways from everything we've talked about so far?
Well, I think for me, what stands out is this emphasis on long-term thinking and ethical persuasion.
Right.
It's not about tricking people or getting a quick win.
Yeah.
It's about understanding their needs,
Okay.
building real relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and presenting solutions that benefit everyone involved.
Exactly.
It's about creating a win-win scenario
I agree.
where everyone feels empowered and heard.
And it's amazing how these seemingly small things, like a guarantee, a shared opinion, or even a smile,
Right.
can have such a big impact on our decisions.
Oh, they absolutely can.
It's all about understanding these subtle psychological triggers.
Yes, and using them ethically.
Right, because we're all susceptible to persuasion, whether we realize it or not.
We are.
So the key is to become more aware of these techniques so we can make more informed choices.
Exactly. Knowledge is power in this case.
So now that we've laid the groundwork,
Yeah.
let's get specific and see how these persuasion techniques can be applied in different areas, like sales, marketing, and even personal relationships.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into the art of persuasion.
I'm excited.
Me too.
This is great stuff.
Welcome back to our deep dive into persuasion.
Glad to be back.
So we're going to get into how these techniques can actually be used, like in real life.
Yeah, practical applications.
Yeah, starting with sales.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, you know, the audiobook calls it persuasive selling. It's not just about pushing a product, it's more like guiding someone.
Right, leading them down a path.
Exactly.
So they feel like, hey, this is my decision.
I like that. It's more about like a journey.
It is, yeah.
For the customer.
Totally.
So does the audiobook like give any frameworks or anything?
Yeah, they have this process they call ISEL.
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 Okay, what's that stand for?
So it stands for identify, start your story,
okay,
educate, and let them buy.
Okay, so identify, start your story, educate, and let them buy. I like it.
Yeah, it's catchy.
It is. So let's break it down. What's identify?
Okay, so identify is all about finding the right people.
Okay.
Like people who genuinely need what you're offering.
Right, qualified leads.
Exactly. Like, you don't want to waste time on people who are never going to be interested.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Because time is money.
Time is money, exactly.
So once you've identified your, like, ideal customer, then what?
Then you start your story.
Oh, right.
Remember all that stuff we talked about? Like crafting a narrative, your persona.
Yeah.
This is where it all comes in.
Okay, so it's not just listing features and benefits.
No.
It's more like creating a story that people can connect with.
Yes, exactly.
Actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to build curiosity in your story.
Maybe use some testimonials to boost your credibility and make it seem like, hey, this solution is the obvious choice.
I like that, the obvious choice.
Right. Make it inevitable.
So once they've heard your story, it's like, there's no other option.
Exactly.
That's cool.
It's brilliant.
And then how do you go from that to educating them?
Okay, so as you're telling your story, you naturally move into the educate phase.
Okay.
That's where you address any concerns they might have, answer their questions, position yourself as the expert.
Gotcha. So you're building a relationship.
Yeah, building rapport.
Not just like throwing information at
Exactly. It's a conversation.
And I guess throughout this whole process, you're kind of subtly nudging them toward the decision you want them to make.
You are, but always making sure it aligns with their needs.
Right. Ethical persuasion.
Ethical persuasion, exactly.
Yeah. So we've identified the prospect, we've told a great story, we've educated them.
Right.
How do we close the deal?
All right, that's let them buy.
Oh.
This is where you make it super easy for them to take action.
Okay.
No pressure, no hard sell.
Right.
Just a clear path to saying yes.
So it's like giving them permission to buy.
You could say that, yeah.
But the key is, it doesn't end there.
No, not at all.
Persuasive selling is about the long game.
It is.
Building that relationship.
Yeah, nurturing it.
So they come back for more.
Exactly. Loyalty is key.
Now, how does all this translate to marketing?
Okay, so in marketing, the audiobook specifically talks about teleseminars.
Teleseminars.
Yeah, I know they might seem a bit old school.
Yeah.
But they're actually really effective.
Okay.
Because you have this direct connection with a large audience.
That's true. It's more personal than like an email blast.
Exactly. And you can really build that rapport.
And they can ask questions.
Yeah, there's that interaction.
I see. So what makes a teleseminar persuasive?
Well, the audiobook talks about this idea of speaking in pictures.
Speaking in pictures.
Yeah.
But it's audio only.
Right. But you want to create vivid imagery in the listener's mind.
Oh, I see.
So use descriptive language, make them feel like they're right there with you.
Engaging their imagination.
Exactly. And you know what else I recommend?
What's that?
Giving people cheat sheets to fill out during the call.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It keeps them engaged.
Yeah, totally.
Makes them actively participate.
And I guess, just like any presentation, you want to start strong, build momentum, end with a clear call to action.
Exactly. Same principles apply.
And of course, nowadays, you'd record the teleseminar.
Oh, absolutely.
And then repurpose it.
Yeah, turn it into a podcast, a blog post, social media content.
Get the most out of it.
Exactly.
It's funny, this source material about persuasion actually talks about the power of podcasts as a persuasive tool.
It's kind of meta, isn't it?
It is.
But it makes sense, you know?
Yeah?
Podcasts are great for reaching a specific audience.
Right, people who have chosen to listen.
Exactly. They're already interested in what you have to say.
So it's not like a radio ad where you're just shouting into the void.
Right. You're speaking directly to people who care.
And you can really build that expertise.
Oh, yeah. You become the go-to person in their mind.
Yeah.
And by consistently providing value, you can subtly influence their thinking.
That's powerful.
It is. It's building trust over time.
Now, the audiobook also mentions websites.
Right. Websites are important.
It's part of the persuasion process.
Yeah. Think of your website as your digital storefront.
Okay.
It's working 24/7 to convert visitors into customers.
Gotcha.
So every element needs to be strategically designed.
Like the design, the copy?
All of it, even the calls to action.
Yeah.
Everything should guide people towards the desired outcome.
And video is super persuasive.
Oh, video's huge.
It's so engaging.
Yeah, you can connect with people on a much deeper level.
Because you can see their face, their expressions.
Exactly. You get those nonverbal cues.
Right, and the tone of voice.
It adds another layer to the message.
So it seems like we've only just scratched the surface here.
Oh, yeah. There's so much more we could talk about.
What are some key things to keep in mind
Okay, well,
as we explore this world of persuasion?
first and foremost, remember that persuasion is a skill.
Okay.
You can get better at it with practice.
So it's not like you're born a master persuader.
No, it takes time and effort.
And the audiobook emphasizes the importance of continuous learning.
Yes, always be learning.
Practicing your skills.
Putting it into action.
And analyzing your successes and failures.
Exactly. Learn from your mistakes.
So it's not enough to just read about this stuff.
No, you got to go out and do it.
Experiment.
Try new things.
See what works.
And, as you gain experience, you start to develop this intuition.
Oh, interesting.
You can kind of sense what will resonate with people.
Like a sixth sense for persuasion?
You could say that, yeah.
And I know the audiobook also talks about ethical persuasion. Can we go over those key tenets again?
Sure. So they are outcome-based, best interest-focused, truthful, goal and time-oriented, personal, and ethical.
Wow, that's a lot to remember.
It is, but they all boil down to one thing.
What's that?
Approaching persuasion with integrity.
Right.
Being authentic, and genuinely wanting to create positive outcomes.
Not just for yourself, but for everyone involved.
Exactly. It's about win-win situations.
It really does feel like those tenets sum up what ethical persuasion is all about.
Yeah, it's like a guiding principle,
Right.
Making sure that what you do, how you persuade, it matches your values.
So it's not just about getting your way.
No, not at all. It's about thinking bigger, considering how your actions impact others.
Making sure everyone benefits in the end.
Exactly. Persuasion should be about building connections, not breaking them down.
Right, and that takes trust.
Absolutely. It's like a foundation for any relationship, really.
So do you think the audiobook gives us any tips on how to be more ethical persuaders in our daily lives?
Well, they really stress building genuine relationships for starters.
That makes sense.
And really listening to people, like actually understanding their point of view.
Yeah, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Exactly, and then being honest and open in your communication.
So it's like putting yourself in their shoes.
Exactly, having empathy, trying to see things from their perspective.
It's almost like shifting your mindset, from how can I win to how can we both win?
Yes, exactly. It's about moving away from that, like me versus you mentality.
And focusing on finding solutions that benefit everyone.
Exactly. Collaboration over competition.
It's so interesting how this deep dive has really highlighted the importance of human connection.
It has, hasn't it? Like, in the end, persuasion is about connecting with people on a human level.
Right. It's not about tricks or manipulation. It's about authenticity.
Exactly. And understanding that we're all just trying to figure things out.
And speaking of figuring things out,
Yeah.
I'm curious, does the audiobook give any advice on how to actually get better at persuasion?
Well, they talk a lot about the importance of practice, like anything else.
So it's a skill you can develop.
Absolutely. It's not something you're just born with.
Okay, so how do we practice?
Well, they suggest looking for opportunities to use persuasive communication.
So like giving presentations.
Yeah, or writing persuasive emails.
Or even just having those tough conversations with friends or family.
Exactly. Any chance you get to put these principles into practice.
So it's about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone a bit.
Yeah, trying new things, seeing what works.
And then, I guess, asking for feedback.
Oh, yeah, feedback is crucial.
To see how you're coming across.
Exactly, and being open to that feedback, even if it's not always positive.
Right, because sometimes the things we think are persuasive might not be landing the way we think.
Right, and that's where self-awareness comes in.
So the more you practice and refine your approach, the better you'll get.
Absolutely. It's a journey, not a destination.
And as you go on that journey,
Yeah.
you start to develop that intuition we were talking about.
Exactly. You start to trust your gut.
So it's like a combination of learning the techniques and then also trusting your own instinct.
Yes, exactly. Finding that balance.
So to wrap things up,
Yeah.
any final words of wisdom from the audiobook?
Well, one quote really stuck with me.
What's that?
They said, "The most persuasive people are those who genuinely believe in what they're advocating for."
That's powerful. It's about passion.
It is. When you believe in something, that passion shines through.
And people are more likely to be persuaded.
Exactly, because they can feel your authenticity.
So it's not just about the words you say.
No.
It's about the conviction behind them.
Yes, that's what makes the difference.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive, wouldn't you say?
It really has so much to think about.
To our listeners, thanks for joining us on this exploration of persuasion.
We hope you learned something new.
Remember, this power of persuasion,
Yeah.
it's inside all of us.
Use it wisely.
Use it ethically.
And make the world a better place.
Until next time, keep those persuasive minds engaged.